Good morning, everyone. Kyle Nelson here, coming to you as the COVOST Training Coordinator for the April 2018 edition of Colorado Virtual Operations Support Team Monthly Meeting / Training. We're coming to you here on this beautiful April 20 across Colorado. I know it says 2017 on the agenda. We will fix that, but going right along, we're going to jump into our program here. We are trying a new training platform this week, the freeconferencecall.com platform. Thank you to those of you that are attending live, and if you're viewing the recording here after the fact, welcome. We are working through testing out some new training tools, and we're hopeful that this one will be much more interactive. So if you remember the Google Hangouts platform that we had used in the past, it's more of a presentation format where it doesn't allow for too much interaction, especially in the live format, where this one, it does allow us to interact live as things are ongoing, and it will also capture the audio from the, if you choose to dial in via phone as well, if you're mobile or otherwise preoccupied with your current daily duties. So without any further ado, just a reminder that we are continuing on our third Friday of the month, 9 a.m. Mountain Time for trainings. And we've kind of broken things out a little bit differently this year. If you'll recall from our January 2018 training, I'll bring up the training planner really quick so you can kind of see where our heads are at as far as Mickey and myself as far as training goes. So following today's training on Slack and our COVOST Workbook that we use to collaborate during activations, we will be going into we're going to do a session on Google Mapping. You go ahead and flip over to the screen share. Stand by one. Okay, so now with the screen share, I'll save some bandwidth here. We're going to talk about custom Google Maps and how we create those. I'm really excited. I'm just about confirmed a very talented young lady named Hannah from Western Washington University. She's a GIS, Geographic Information Systems specialist up there, and I'll actually be presenting with her a Google Maps session at GSMCon coming up next week, and hoping that we can lock her in to kind of share some of her knowledge and things and help to train our team members on creating custom Google Maps as well. So stay tuned for updates on that. I'm really looking forward to that session. Following that, we're going to take June off, family activities, things like that. We want you to be able to definitely enjoy your summer, but then we'll be back right at it on July 20 for Reddit. We're working to get Alicia King back. If you remember, she did a kind of a Reddit overview session last year, and that was, I think that was our biggest attended training that we've ever had for our team, and hopefully we can break that record again here for her advanced searching and monitoring session. Beyond that, kind of filling in some things here at the end with some perhaps like a panel type overview of things with digital media monitoring, some best practices, and then talking a little bit about this. Now, this schedule is flexible. It is not set in stone by any means, and what I really want to convey with this is that this is the team's training schedule. I am here to facilitate the topics that our team members want to train on, and that is my primary role. So I'm here to help all of you get the training that you desire and that you may need. So another part of that is to help our team members grow internally as well. So if we have folks that are very dialed in on a certain platform or a certain topic, or you had a recent activation and you want to share some best practices and lessons learned, please let Mickey or I know, and we'll be happy to include you in the schedule. We'll help you get things set up, get the format all rigged up for you, and it doesn't have to be the full hour time slot that we may have scheduled from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Even just 30 minutes, just sharing and being kind of willing to contribute to the team's growth and overall success. So please do consider doing that. I would love to have some of our team members jump in and help the team grow as a whole. So please reach out to Mickey or myself if that's something that you would be interested in. And an update from Mickey, she unfortunately is in a real-world situation this morning. As I hinted at in some of the pre-recording discussion with folks here attending live, the Colorado State Emergency Operations Center is active this morning, supporting multiple wildfires all the way from the plains on the east side of the state to a fire just west of Grand Junction. That's been ongoing now for about 36 hours. So unfortunately, Mickey can't attend, but she does extend her thanks to everyone for attending and saying that looks like right now Colorado could have a busy wildfire season. And from the meteorology side of the house, I echo that, and that is a huge concern both with public safety, National Weather Service, and all the emergency management agencies throughout the state. So stay tuned for that, and let's make sure to keep our skills sharp so that if we are called upon, we are ready to jump in and engage. So rolling along from there, we're going to just a quick overview of what we can expect this morning. We're going to take a look at the Slack platform that we use for internal team communications, as well as a kind of a review of our COVOST Workbook. I'm going to show some examples from a historical activation that we had, and just to give folks an overview, an idea of where things go, how things should look. But it's a really, really great tool, and it's adapted from a workbook that was put together by many, many brilliant minds that has evolved over the years from Scott Reuter, Mar, and other amazing folks up in the Pacific Northwest. I know I'm forgetting some of you, but mad love to you. I'm not forgetting you on purpose. Just there's been so many awesome contributors to that workbook that I just want to recognize them again. So one thing too is that as we're going through here, I've done my best to black out any sensitive information or things. I've checked it over pretty rigorously, but as this is a live training, we will be showing some things live here, and just my standard disclaimer from back from Scott Reuter and Nathan Hoonerwaddle days, I can't always fully control what shows up on the screen, but thankfully, since this is recorded, we can do a little bit of editing if it becomes necessary. So, scrolling on here, Slack, if you're following along here in your training agenda, which was sent via email and is also linked in the training channel on Slack. All of you will have access to the COVOST Slack channel, and if you haven't joined that yet, I think that's one of the standard onboarding things that Mickey does. Make sure if you had joined that you still can log into it. You can also download the Slack mobile app for your phone. Both iOS and Android devices are supported for that, as well as if you have, you can also download, there's an applet that can install on your computer as well for a little bit of a cleaner, separate interface, so you don't have to have the Slack channel open in your web browser tab. So just a couple different ways to access it. If you are having trouble with it, email Mickey or shoot her a direct message in Slack, and she can get you set up with that, as she is our team manager and account administrator. And so Slack, why is it so important? Well, during our activations and even here during our trainings, our members access, monitor some of the chatter that's ongoing internally in that channel, and we actually will use that Slack platform to have our kind of internal activation-related messaging. And so that allows us to, instead of being spread out between multiple platforms for team communication and then collaboration and so on and so forth, we use Slack for everything from alert and notification for a potential activation to, as I said, communicating as an activation is ongoing, to even asking questions of the experts that are on our team. If you have questions about either the Slack platform itself, a social media platform, struggling with something in that regard, or you have a question to ask, go ahead and drop it into Slack, and that from right there, you harness the entire collective power knowledge of the COVOST team to help to address your question and needs. So I'm going to jump over here to my Slack window. Standby 1. Now, here we go. New platform, folks. New platform. It's a learning curve for all of us. Okay. I'm going to switch over to my Slack window. Drum roll. Excellent. Okay. So you're seeing my Slack window, and this is kind of the desktop version, so it might look a little bit different if you're logged in your web browser. But this also does very closely mimic the mobile interface as well. So in Slack, you have your team name in the upper left-hand corner with your name immediately right below it. And from there, you have a list of channels. So each thing that's listed here on the left-hand side, say like admin chat, alert, notify, things like that, those are all channels. Think of those channels as chat rooms. And those are, by default, open to anyone. Anyone can create channels if you need to get a group of you together and have a conversation. And you can also restrict some of the conversation that can be seen in those channels. So like Mickey and I, see this first one here on the upper left for me has a little lock symbol by it, the admin chat. And that's where Mickey and I can have those offline conversations or private conversations, excuse me, for discussing things that are team related that we don't necessarily need the entire team to be able to view. Other things in here, just some of the channels, and everyone has access to all of these by default. So our activation channel, that is during an activation where you would go in to look at and monitor any activation related information. We'll put all of our some of our findings in there. We'll dole out assignments, and that is where any conversation that occurs regarding our current activation will take place. And that way, if you're currently working that activation, you can have the notifications for that channel enabled. If you're not currently on shift, then you can turn those off for that one particular channel. And that's totally fine, and that's a best practice that I definitely support. Another channel that's on here is the alert-notify channel. That is the one where we would notify the team of upcoming requests for activation and support. This is not necessarily, it may be, hey, this is preliminary, we're just gauging availability, or it might be perhaps, and I know some people can be superstitious, but bear with me. For example, hey, we have a big wildfire that's developing, growing out of control somewhere in Pitkin County. We need folks to activate now. If you can activate, please put a message in this channel and then go to the activation channel. Right, so it may occur very quickly as well. So we ask folks to keep their notifications on for the alert-notify channel. So if I go to that channel, then from there is where I can adjust my notifications. So then if I go from alert notify, I can go to my channel settings, and then here I can adjust my notification preferences. And from there you can choose whether it alerts on your desktop app or when you're logged into it on a computer or on your mobile device as well. For me, I have notifications on for all activity in the alert notify channel on both my mobile device and my computer as well. So no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I'll always get that push notification. And that's the only channel that we ask that everyone please do not mute their notifications. And so you see here, all new messages, desktop and mobile is where I have it alerting me. And you can customize the notification preferences for each channel that you are part of as well. So again, that's accessed in the Alert Notify. Click on the channel that you want to modify the settings or notifications for. Click the gear icon or channel settings, and then notification preferences. So continuing on, a quick overview of some of our channels. In the general channel, here for COVOST. All right, cool, little throwback there. That's where we have our team-wide communications, announcements and other general discussion. And as the name implies, it's very much if you want to ask questions or things or just have general conversation, that's where the channel that you would use is general. Now, if you're not seeing some of these channels and you weren't added to them by default, that's definitely possible. If you, next to the channels kind of header here, and you click on channels, you can then browse through and look at, and you can search for these channel names. So you can scroll through, look for them. As I'm reading them off, you can also search for those channels in here. And if you're not part of it, and it's a public channel, which all of ours are, you can go ahead and join them. The next one is the Help-Slack channel. So Help-Slack, this is where if anyone has Slack-related questions, use questions, how do I do this or find that on the Slack platform, this is where you can drop those questions. I'm always in there listening for any questions or things that may come up, and where you can crowdsource assistance from the team with Slack-related questions and things. Next one, random, as the name implies, any total random thing. So you, as the name implies, you can feel free to have kind of off-topic random conversations in here that you feel that some of our team members may enjoy. There's some conversation in there earlier surrounding the Eclipse activation that we had last fall in support of Larimer County and those folks in north central Colorado, and where if it doesn't fit in any of the other channels, random is a great place for it. And you can even, of course, try out GIFs are supported. So the animated GIFs are supported in Slack, fun fact. And you can also create your own reactions as well. We won't go into that, but just know that if you consult the Dr. Google, you can go ahead and check those out as well. I know Party Parrot and the T-Rex are two of my favorites. So, and then finally, the ones that we probably use the most, the last one is training. And then in our training channel, that's where I share all the information on trainings, upcoming information. I post anything that comes out after the fact. So once that recording is live, folks can check that out as well. And if you have any feedback or any questions as we're doing these live trainings, or if you're viewing the recording after the fact, you can come back and drop a question in the training channel as it relates to a training topic that we covered either currently or in the past. And Mickey, myself, or one of our other brilliant members will jump in and contribute to that conversation. So that's a quick overview of the channels. One other thing that I do want to mention as well is if my kind of organization of these channels looks a little bit different from yours, that's okay. There's one of these that says starred is one of the headings that I have here. So for example, under Alert Notify, one of those I starred. And so that's if on the if I click on that particular channel, like, hey, I want to put the training channel, I want to always have that at the top of my channel list. I'll click on the training channel, go to the upper left of there, and I can see the button for star this channel. On the left-hand side under the channel name, if I click that, you'll see the training channel move from just my channels list to under the starred list. You can also star direct messages between you and someone else. So for example, I always keep our admin chat, our Alert Notify channel, and then my direct messages with Mickey starred up at the top. So it's just a way for you to organize the layout of your Slack platform and within the COVOST channel in order for COVOST team on Slack in order to make things most user-friendly for you. If something's happening, maybe you want the activation channel starred near the top. Once that activation is done, you can unstar it and it moves back down below. So that's a quick overview on some of our channels that we most commonly use. And I wanted to talk a little bit about messaging. So messaging is a feature on Slack where it can be between between you and another user, so that's 2, and up to a total of 9 folks. So any user can direct message another user, and so if you would click on someone's name, you can see any conversation history you have with that other person, and then from there you can go forward and you can direct message them, and that's a private conversation, say, between you and that one other individual. No one else in the COVOST team on Slack will be able to view that conversation. So to start a direct message with someone, if you want to do that, again, you can click on their name, or under direct messages, if you don't see the person's name you want to contact, just click on the plus symbol to the right of the direct messages header. Open a screen and it'll say, hey, who do you want to start a conversation with? And you can start typing a team member's name in there, and you can then have that conversation with them in private. It works almost exactly the same as direct messaging or messaging on the Twitter platform, if you're familiar with that interface. So that's a little bit on channels and on messaging. But with Slack, another really neat thing is that you can actually share files. So this can be either in a channel or in a direct message between you and another Slack user. And this is a way that you can either, say in the training channel, if I wanted to do that, I could, or whichever person I'm chatting with, I click the plus icon down in the bottom of that screen, and I can say, hey, I want to add a file from, say, my computer, if you have, from your Dropbox, Google Drive, whichever it might be, and if I want to do that, I can then say, I can select a screen capture or perhaps a photo that I took, and if I say open, it'll bring it in. I can rename it. I can confirm what channel or who I'm sharing it with. Then I can add an optional comment and then say upload. And this works for all file types. I've sent and received different fonts for presentations that I might not have had on my computer, PDFs, PowerPoints. Even you can even upload pictures and things as well, which we do when it comes to activations, and we're monitoring for that type of content. So just know that that is there, and I'll just kind of do this as an example. If I say upload, those of you that are viewing this live, you'll be able to then see in the training channel on the COVOST Slack that I uploaded that photo. And if you can click on it, then you can bring it up and view that content. It's a beautiful panorama. I suggest you check it out. Anyway, I digress. So that's a way that you can share files into Slack, and that was an example of doing that in the training channel. But you can also do link sharing as well, the same way that I do with our training workbooks and agendas. You can copy and paste in a link from any website or any URL, and especially if it's a collaborative document like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, something of that nature, just copy and paste a link right into the little message box at the bottom of that channel screen there, and you can put whatever, and you can link to whatever content or share that link with the members of that channel as well. So really powerful platform, and just trying to see what we've already addressed. So that's a little bit on link and file sharing in Slack. And as we get into activations, I'm hopeful that we won't be activated for any wildfires this season, but If we do, or for other perhaps man-made or natural disasters that occur, again, activation channel is where we're going to have that conversation that's specifically surrounding that activation or that content there, and that is where all the notifications will come from if you have those activation-related conversations. And then Slack also allows for searching as well. So if we, in the upper right-hand corner, from any screen that we're on, in Slack, if we go to the search bar, we can search for any content by keyword or even by file type as well. And so these are just a couple of searches that I've done before. And if I wanted to, say, look for any content that happened and say, oh my gosh, what was that training about back in January? I know I've heard of it, but what was it about? So I can start typing in January. If for January, it comes up with some links that were shared, such as our meeting workbook, training agenda, well, from 2018 and 2017. But if I wanted to maybe find just the agenda, I can then search for those and find those links in there as well. I can click on it, for example, and then it will pull that up on the right-hand side, and I can see, oh, wow, this is the right thing, or no, maybe I want to modify it a little bit. Another way that we can search is by from a specific user. So if I wanted to look for what the last thing I received, say from Chris Tarantino was in the COVOST Slack team, I can type in from : and I can start typing in his name, and I'll see Chris Tarantino, and if I click on that, I'll see all of the conversations I had, whether it's direct message or in channels that I'm part of, when Chris has posted. So just ways to look for content from specific users or with specific headers and things. And we try to always label things, and I do when I post them, so that they're easily searchable for our members on Slack as well. So if you have any more questions about Slack, I'm happy to take those at this time. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and break from Slack and jump over into our COVOST workbook. So I'm just flip back to the agenda here. Again, if you come up with anything after the fact or as the training is going on, again, feel free to drop those in the message or the chat feature here on the free conference call platform. If you're connected via audio, feel free to shout out, interrupt me at any time, or after we've wrapped things up here, or if you're viewing the recording, the training channel is your friend. Feel free to drop any questions you may have in there at this time. So we're going to flip over now to the workbook. And our workbook, as we said, is what we use for activations to build our team's kind of situational awareness from our monitoring and a common operating picture between our team members, our team lead, and the agencies that we are supporting. And so that we can all work collaboratively within this document, as we will likely and often have multiple team members active on a single shift during an activation, so that we can all collaborate and see what the others are finding in real time. And that is one of the most powerful tools that we found is using our workbook, of course, as it has been created, modified, and updated by the many, many brilliant minds in the COVOST world here for generations. So I'm going to flip over to our April meeting workbook, just demo a couple of things here, and I'll also then be switching over to a historical activation workbook just to show you what some of those things may look like. So let me zoom back out here. Okay. So the first thing that we'll see when we jump into our workbook, I'm going to work from left to right across the tabs at the bottom. And first thing that we're going to see is the Start Here instructions. And just as pilots have pre-flight checklists, just as medical professionals have checklists when they're going through to do inventory and doing their rig checks and things in the morning, we have this Start Here instructions tab to kind of bring everyone up to speed and refresh everyone. We perhaps haven't activated in a little while, and we can start to see what some of our common tasks are, what we need to start thinking of before we get started for this particular activation, and then as we're ramping up, that second header, the getting started one. So as we're getting ready for our shift for this particular activation that might be coming up, I can start to go in there and kind of check some of these boxes. Make sure, have I logged in? Have I checked in on the check-in, check-out tab? Is my contact information, correct in the roster tab in the workbook? Check into the activation channel. Let folks know you're online, so on and so forth, and that's what we can do to all get spun up to make sure that we're all on the same page so that when our shift starts, we're all dialed in, we're ready to rock and roll. And as we're starting our shift, just some reminders, that third kind of bullet point here, these common tasks that are listed. Right? If we're finding ourselves, hey, I'm kind of running out of things to do, or I'm not sure where to get started on, first, contact your team lead for that particular shift. And if that team lead doesn't have anything for you immediately, you can start working through some of these common tasks. This is not a comprehensive list by any means, but just some food for thought, if you will, to get things started and up and running for you. So the next tab we have is the Cover tab. And this will change. This one just says April 2018 meeting. This will change based on the name of the activation or the event that we are supporting. And this contains links to all the official Colorado Virtual Operations Support Team content, links, documentation, as well as our core principles, mission, vision, and values. And just to kind of remind everyone, we are supporting the state of Colorado. We are representing the state of Colorado when we do these activations, and to make sure that we are keeping that in mind moving forward as we're assisting these state and local agencies with their particular event or incident that is occurring. The next tab is Availability. So I'm going to flip over here and show you that one. So Availability, this is just showing this morning's training. This is an example of, are you attending live or viewing the recording? If this was an activation workbook, that may look more like this, right? You have names, then you have these shift times, which typically are 2-hour shifts, and you indicate yes, no, or maybe if you're available. And that's just indicating availability so that the team manager can then work to assign teams for each shift to make sure that we have adequate coverage and folks with varying areas of expertise on each shift as well. So as we continue along, as we're going through, there's also there's the Summary tab as well, and again that Summary tab. This is the Summary tab. Things got a little bit reordered here, but the Summary tab, this is just an example of what that would look like. If any of you are Incident Command System or ICS nerds like myself, you'll notice this is kind of a combination of the ICS 202, 203, and 204 forms. So it gives an overview of what our operational period is for this particular day, what our objectives are, as well as links to other pertinent documents, resources, contact information for leadership, as well as shift summaries for each various operational period. And all these are on here, and so as your shift completes, as you complete your shift, put your summary in, you can then go back and look at historical what's happened, what other teams have found. Is there anything that I want to be keying in on, perhaps? The Summary tab here This is, again, a little bit less cluttered since this is a more sterile one here, more clean. And we have shift leaders as well as then the other members assigned to each shift to help coordinate things and to work. And then, of course, any mission-specific things that we may be assigned, other instructions. And so the summary tab, once you get logged on to the workbook, this is typically the first place that I will go after I check in. And I will start looking through and say, hey, what the heck is going on? Who am I reporting to? Who am I working with? And then what are my mission objectives for that particular shift? So check-in, check-out, pretty self-explanatory for that one. For check-in and check-out here, just find your name in the list, date, time in and time out in 24-hour format we prefer. And so afternoon, of course, starting 1300, 1400 for 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and so on. And it will automatically calculate the time that you give and to that particular activation. And I cannot stress how important this is to check in and check out. That way we can ensure accountability of our team members, 1, and 2, so that we can then give that information to the agency or jurisdictions that we are supporting so that they can, if depending on the severity of the event, volunteer hours can actually be reimbursed based on the FEMA guidelines and things if we do get into reimbursement type level events. And also, it also allows us to work with the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management at the state level to showcase the value that our team members are providing to the state of Colorado and the local agencies with the volunteer hours that we're putting in. So it's your time that you're volunteering. Please get credit for it and make sure that it helps support the team overall and truly helps to kind of justify us as being here and having these awesome trainings and activations and things, and having the opportunity to participate and support the local agencies. Next tab, for resources and for websites. These, I'll show a quick example here. These resources and websites, these are for each particular activation. All of our tools will be listed in here. If there's a geocode, so a lat long for the event, and then, of course, any other things. And this is where team members will contribute and build out this list. Are there any social media feeds? And however you want to organize this, it's a Google Doc, so you can cut, paste, copy, modify on the fly as it works for that particular mission that we are assigned. Sometimes we break it out by platform. Other times we break it out by geographic area if we're covering multiple counties. For example, like we did for the solar eclipse activation, we were spread out between the north central and south central part of the state. And so there's any number of ways to organize this, but just know that this is where we can start putting kind of data feeds and other information, search strings that you copy and paste in, and we can build out our search things from in here, for lack of a better term. I know that sounded super technical. We can build out our resources for searching in here. So if the team lead may assign Glenn, say, hey Glenn, for this particular shift, I'd like you to tackle monitoring on Twitter and on Instagram. And Glenn can come under here. Okay, here's my Twitter lists that have been created. I can monitor there. And perhaps if there's another line here under Instagram searching or certain hashtags on Instagram, Glenn can then go in there and find that readily. And this is really, and if you discover something cool that's getting you some good results, put it in the resources and websites tab, and that allows everyone on the team to benefit from the resources and things that you are finding. And finally, we have some mission-specific tabs. And with those, that is where, as we go through, and we don't have any in here since we don't have any missions, but essentially what those would be is, I'll show a quick example here. like a mission-specific tab. So if we had multiple missions, so say we were monitoring for threats, and we were monitoring for disruptions, traffic incidents, protests, right? That might be 2 or 3 mission areas, and based on what we're finding, we can then put those results in the respective mission tabs. This particular activation here, we had several different missions that we kind of all grouped together because of how quickly things were evolving, but this is just one example of that. And then if we do have multiple missions, those will actually be identified here in our summary tab. So mission 1, 2, 3, up to 4, if things are that interesting, shall we say, for our particular activation. But let's say for X Games, for example, we monitor more typically for drone incursions over the X Games venue and the crowds, since that's been an issue in the past. We've also then monitored for health and safety issues, because you have 50,000 plus people outside at 9 and 10 o'clock at night with mountain downslope winds, snow, and freezing cold. You may have some health-related issues, some EMS-related issues, and that is something that we can monitor for as well. And so that may be a second mission that we get assigned for that particular event or that particular activation, and we would then adjust where we log that information accordingly. The Tools tab, that's final one on here. This could probably use some updating. I think that would be a good thing to tackle here. So just different tools and platforms that are listed. I know some of these haven't been around for a while. This is largely a copy and paste tab, but just looking at tools that are out there, whether it's app-based, whether it's only available on mobile device, whether you can use it on a desktop version, and if it's a free tool or a paid tool. If you have access to the paid tools, great. But our team doesn't use any of those. But for these, it's always good to see during an activation who used these different platforms, and if so, what did you use it for, how did you use it, and is this a platform that we should be exploring or keeping in mind for future activations? So I think this would be kind of a fun take-home from this workbook, and I'll add this to the agenda. Just a little bit of quick homework. In the April meeting COVOST Workbook, April 2018, if you go to the Tools tab, let's do a little bit of work collaboratively on these different tools that are here. Let's remove the ones, because I know several of these don't even exist anymore or are not offering a free service. So let's update these. If you use some different ones or different search engines or aggregators for social media monitoring, go ahead and put those in here, and let's see if we can add and come up with a more updated list for the team, and we'll update that, and so you'll see your modifications here reflected in future meeting workbooks as well as future activation workbooks. So that'll be the homework for today's training, and here in the last few minutes, go ahead and you can get a start on that, but I'll send out that reminder as an update when we do the follow-up following today's training. After that, just some quick best practices if we're adding content to our mission tabs. I'll zoom in here for those of you viewing the recording. Best practice, skip 1 to 3 lines when you're entering information. It is possible to override another user, and if you are in a workbook and you see a box that's kind of color highlighted and it has someone's name next to it, that means they've highlighted or selected that box. So skip 1 to 3 rows when you're entering things in the search results tab or the mission tabs, and that will allow everyone to make sure you don't override each other, because all those empty rows can always be deleted, but we have had issues with overriding other folks in the past. And escalation is another term that you may hear, and do we need to escalate this? How important is this topic or this thing that I found? And that could be something that our local point of contact gives us. There might be keywords or topics related to our activation that local public information officer or point of contact may want us to watch. There are any bad things that are occurring, threats, illegal activities, violence, interference with official agency operations, right? Things that just, if something's given you, you have that spidey sense that says, hey, something's not right here, that's definitely something to consider escalating. Negative things are other requests for help and assistance. And from there, the bottom line, if you're unsure, just escalate it. Don't get hung up on criteria. Either Mickey or a team lead for that particular shift, they're the ones who are going to discuss on whether or not to escalate that to our requesting agency. So don't get too hung up on that. So what about positive things or good things? Always good as well. If people are posting complimentary things on agencies that we're supporting, very positive pictures or positive sentiment, always good to relay those as well, because there's enough negativity in the news and on social media nowadays, and if we can help to show those agencies that people are saying good things about them as well, as we're supporting their event or their incident, it's always good to be able to pass those positive and good things along to help build morale and keep the folks in the field stoked. One last thing on capturing some screenshots during activations. We've kind of streamlined that process from how we've done that in the past. And so take a screenshot of the content. Say if you're on a desk doing this on a desktop or on a laptop, take a screenshot of that content. If you're using the snipping tool on Windows, you can use different add-ons for the Google Chrome browser if that's your thing, or whichever, I forget the hotkey shortcut on the Mac to get the screen capture tool. But once you capture that, upload that image to the activation channel on Slack, and then that will ensure that screenshot is logged. If you are able to capture a direct link or a URL to that particular screen capture or screenshot, you can put that in the mission tab for that activation as well. If you're on the mobile device, screenshot it on your mobile device and upload it directly to the activation channel on Slack. I know, like especially on Instagram, since the searching on the mobile devices is much more robust. For Instagram, screen capture it and upload it directly to the activation channel. So that's what I have for our quick overview on Slack use and our COVOST workbook. I know it was kind of a quick hit, but feel free to revisit the April training agenda, the April 2018 COVOST training agenda linked via the email that you all received from the COVOST Google group, as well as in the training channel on Slack. Go ahead and remember you can search on Slack for April 2018 agenda, and that should be the first search result that pops up. So as we wind down here, just wanted to pause for any final questions that may be out there. All right, hearing none, just some final takeaways. Mickey asked me to share that if anyone you know would be a good fit for the team, if they're social media savvy, they like searching and monitoring for information on social media, please go ahead and send them Mickey's way and email their contact information to Mickey if you think they'd be a good fit. They can also, you can send them to our COVOST site there, our webpage on the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management's website here for the state of Colorado. And if they're interested and like what they see, then you can have them reach out to Mickey as well. So many ways to go about that, but we're always looking for awesome new members to bring new expertise into the team as well. And finally, from me, thank you everyone for attending this training, both live and if you're viewing the recording here after the fact. All these tools and techniques that we're using and discussing, these come about because of the input from you, our members. And again, we'd love to have you as part of our training cadre throughout the season, throughout the year. And so if you are interested in jumping in and presenting on any of the topics that we discussed earlier on our training agenda, or if you have a topic that you would like to share with the team, please let me know. And I'd love to get you on to help share and contribute to the team, and so that we can all grow together. Because again, this is our team, this is our training, and I want everyone to be able to benefit and be able to grow together. So that's the last bit from me. My email address is in there. You can direct message me on Slack, but for our hands-on exercise, either if you're doing the live training or the recording, please make sure you indicate that on the availability tab in this month's meeting workbook. Log your time on the check-in and check-out tab. That's right, don't forget to check out on that tab as well. And finally, there are some more in-depth trainings on Slack and the workbook, but I also am going to add the piece here to update the Tools tab. So go ahead and jump in there, add tools that you like, remove the ones that you know no longer are in existence, and we'll go ahead and we'll move forward with that together. But without any further ado, thank you for all attending and viewing this. And May 18 is our next meeting, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, Friday, May 18. We'll be talking about Google mapping and creating custom collaborative Google Maps. So with that, this is Kyle Nelson, Training Coordinator for the Colorado Virtual Operations Support Team, saying thank you and take care.